Hi, so I am back with episode 2 on Open Book Club. If you're new here, the Open Book Club is just that. It's just a book club. You can join in every time. I'm going to be essentially giving my synopsis on 5 chapters at a time with some of the books that we will be reading. You can purchase the book and read along with me, or just hear my horrible take on each chapter as I go along. Before I get into it, just a little bit about what I was getting into this weekend and something that I realized about myself that I feel like we all can relate to. So I recently celebrated my anniversary with my boyfriend of 2 years, and we went to a winery resort and spa. It was amazing. The vacation was definitely needed. I loved how easygoing I was. I loved how breezy I was. I loved the fact that I didn't have a stick up my ass. I typically would go swimming and wear a bikini and would be self-conscious, but at the resort, girl, I was yeah, I'm that girl. I don't care who's looking. In fact, I want you to look because look at me like it's me. And I was just thinking, I want to not take myself seriously. I want to apply that to my life. I came back into work and I would take comments seriously when I'm back in reality, or I take the comments personally when I'm back in reality. And I was just thinking, you know what? I need to truly adapt to that mindset of when I was vacationing. Obviously it's kind of hard to, because society kind of messes everything up, but I was just thinking I feel like that's the way to live your life, right? Is to not take everything personally. Don't assume that everyone is out to get you, and just try to be breezy, man. Try not to have a stick up your ass. And I'm not even talking to you, I'm talking to me, that is just a mindset that as I'm growing up, am really trying to adopt. So before we get into it, I do want to do a quick recap of chapters 1 through 5, because I will be covering chapters 6 through 10. By the way, we are reading Bronze Drum by Phong Nguyen. In chapters 1 through 5, we are introduced to the Trung sisters. There's Trung Trak, the eldest sister, and Trung Ni, the younger sister. Trung Trak has a stick up her ass low key, and Trung Ni is reckless and impulsive with her decisions. There's so ample examples as to why I am describing their personalities how I am. They have a father, they call him Lord Trung, and their mother, Lady Men Ten, who are raising them to just be the courageous, fearless, forceful daughters that they can have. The context of the time is that we are in Vietnam 36 CE. Around this time, there was a really strong matriarchal influence. So the daughter is being raised to essentially be an heir to Lord Trung's domain wasn't necessarily out of the ordinary. In chapter 1, we're really just being introduced to the family, the sisters, and those around them. We have an idea of what the society is like amongst all the lords and all the ladies. We're also introduced to Phan Minh, who is the younger sister's little boo thing. Phan Minh is the gardener's son. Phan Minh sneaks a puppy into the palace for Trung Ni. That resulted to a wild consequence. Basically a freaking person got executed. And this is essentially the first wake-up call that the Trung's guardsmen and maybe the Trungs have about how powerful the Han is, and how their ideologies are truly starting to plague the land. Lord Trung gets summoned by the Han governor because he needs an heir. Well, he has an heir, which is supposed to be Trung Trak, the oldest daughter, but that's unacceptable. He needs a man or a son. Lord Trung and Lady Men Ten are too old to produce another child, so Lord Trung promises that he will, against his own traditions, marry off his oldest daughter, Trung Trak, so that his potential son-in-law can become the heir to his palace or domain. And that essentially sums up the first chapter. or the first 5 chapters. There's obviously more details, but we got to keep it pushing. So here we go. In Chapter 6, we are introduced to Tai Sak, a scholar hired by Lord Trung to educate his daughters on becoming militants, and to further the education that they already have. Both the scholar and Lord Trung are sizing each other up, okay? Tai Sak appears too young to be an educator, and to Tai Sak, Lord Trung's energy doesn't match the forceful leader he imagined. Despite their initial skepticism, they decide to give this job a chance. So this little meet and greet reminds me of episode 1, where I do talk about Lord Trung just like huffing and puffing around the palace because he's just so afraid, or he just feels so weak compared to the Han, given that the Han is pretty much like outside his door, ready to take over whenever and however. It's one thing to have your family members watch you display your weakness around the home, but it's another thing to invite an outsider, and the outsider can even sense it and smell it. Like, what hope are you displaying here? You know what I mean? Especially like in the book, it kind of talks about how Lord Trung is trying to maintain the tradition in Vietnam and try to keep the people in the neighboring towns at bay, and trying to contain the fear that's going on throughout the land. So it kind of sucks to like see that an outsider can sense that he is not at all like fearless. During Tai Sak's meet and greet with Lord Trung, expectations were placed about his daughters, Trung Nhi and Trung Trak. As I mentioned before, Nhi, I'm just going to start calling them Nhi and Trak just to, As I mentioned before, Nhi is the wild young sister, and Trak is the disciplined, introverted eldest sister. Lord Trung was giving insight of what Tai Sak is up against. He meets the sisters, and as expected, Nhi interrogates him. She wonders why someone essentially her peer is trying to teach her about wisdom, history, and human psychology. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I would probably do the same thing. Like, when it's one thing to have like a conversation with my peers about like human psychology, wisdom, history, or just like how we are as human beings, and then it's another thing when my peer is trying to teach me something, especially if I already kind of know, and it's like, what are you, like, you're not my mom or my dad. Trak, on the other hand, is in love and mesmerized by how handsome he looks. She's literally like, who is this man, and why is my mind in the gutter looking at him? Like, I've never felt these feels before, and I'm feeling it, and I'm allowing myself to feel it. Also, remember, Lord Trung made a deal with the governor about finding a male heir to his domain, so the book is likely setting up a little love story here. Tai Sak outlines their syllabus, stating that they will learn about Lac Viet and Han history, covering both what is known and what is yet to be explored. He mentions the scholar Confucius, which causes Nhi to lose interest in anything else Tai Sak has to say after that, given their history with the Han. Remember, the Han is taking over, and they widely adopted the Confucian ideologies. Like, they essentially lived by it. So Nhi was like, Confucian who? I am confused by why you are bringing him up in this lesson right now in my home. Like, this part of the chapter was interesting because Tai Sak separated Confucius, the scholar, from the Han, and suggested that Confucius ideologies were what stopped the Han from overwhelming corruption. In episode 1, I noted that the Han dynasty was gradually like eroding Lac Viet's traditions rather than taking it over with unbearable force, so that can correlate with the Confucian ideas that they adopted. A quick fact, during the Han Dynasty, Emperor Wu Di made Confucianism the official state ideology. For further context, Confucianism promoted a government where rulers were morally responsible for their people's welfare. This is likely why they're not outright targeting Lord Trung and the neighboring lords and ladies. Chapter 7. Trung Nhi sneaks out late at night to see her little boyfriend, Phan Minh, the gardener's son who brought a puppy into the palace for her. Because Phan Minh defied the lord and the lady by giving Nhi the puppy, he was exiled to a shed outside the domain to live alone. As Nee is sneaking to his shed, Ka, Lord Trung's right-hand guardsman, makes it obvious that he is following her as it's his duty to keep the family safe. And here's where it's kind of funny, because they both don't know that Track is actually following them to the shed. Like, he's thinking, okay, I got these girls on lock. Nee is sneaking out, like, I got my eye on her. And he has no idea that Track is right behind him. Nee and Ka are invited into Fan Mean's space, where he expresses regret for bringing in the puppy. He didn't know the consequence would be execution for the beggar, and he feels guilty that the beggar's soul didn't rest, essentially on Fan Mean's behalf. Nee becomes overzealous and talks about avenging the beggar's spirit by killing the Han officer who gave Ka the order to execute him. Ka yells at her to never even think about defying the Han, let alone attempting to avenge Fan Mean's guilt. Meanwhile, Track is on the outside, eavesdropping, hoping her impulsive little sister does not follow through with this plan. A little thought on Nee wanting to go after the Han official. I could be interpreting this wrong, but I feel like she's trying to avenge the beggar's spirit, not for the beggar, but for Fan Mean's guilt. And I just, like, that kind of pisses me off all over again, and it makes me not like her all over again, only because I just feel like you have the right idea of wanting to avenge what was injustice, but you have the wrong intention. Right idea, wrong intention. Again, it's not about you, right? It's not about you. It's not about Fan Mean. It's not about your long lost love. It's about the beggar who got his head chopped off because you wanted a damn puppy. And where's the accountability in that? Like, she's still not holding herself accountable. So I just, she pisses me off. Chapter 8. This chapter is very short. Lord Trung follows through with his promise to the Han governor about marrying his daughter off to transfer the heir to his potential son-in-law. Instead of an arranged marriage, he throws a spring festival ball. Think of Bridgerton, okay? There's music, entertainment, dancing, and horny young adults, suitors and suitettes looking to mingle. Although, Trung Track is the diamond after all, and the mission is to find a man suitable for her wants and needs and to become the heir. She meets all the fine men from neighboring palaces who are well-groomed and well-behaved, but she cannot get Tai Sak out of her head. Oh, that's surprising. Tai Sak is at the ball as a guest, not a suitor, but he is eyeing her up and down as she is getting her feet wet in the pond of available fishies. She can't help but to stare at him back. I actually want to see if Spring Festival Ball is, like, actually a thing in Vietnam still. Hold on. Vietnam. I am seeing spring festivals in Vietnam. Okay, I don't have much information for you. Sorry I wasted your time. The morning after the ball, Trung Track wonders why Nee did not show up to Tai Sak's lesson. Although she loves being alone with him, she suspects that Nee has snuck off to find the Han officer who unjustly executed the beggar. After some time, she runs into town hoping to find Nee. Not knowing where to begin, panic starts to set in. She encounters Ka, the guardsman, who is also frantically searching for Nee. He says the officers' barracks are north of the Red River. Let's head there. They reach the river and find Nee sneaking up behind the Han officer who was bathing. The officer, completely vulnerable, begs for his life. Hesitant, Nee prepares to strike, but Track and Ka emerge to stop her. In this part of the chapter, the author does highlight why Nee hesitated. So basically, she's used to only sparring. Like, she's never really fought anyone to the death, right? But I also felt like, it's weird because I was thinking she was so bad and feeling herself when she went up against Rang the Tiger, putting her hand out and stuff. But when it came to the Han officer and avenging the death, she was like, he doesn't have a sword on him, so let me not go for the kill. And also, I'm not gonna lie, like, I feel like I can relate to that. We all say, like, you never know what you're capable of when you're in that moment. Like, she was talking big shit in Fan Mean's shed, saying, like, this is what I'm gonna do. She went ahead and followed through with her plan on finding the Han officer to get him. And once the time came where it was easy for her to strike, she just couldn't do it because I guess he was like, again, completely vulnerable. He was naked, he didn't have his weapon, and he was begging, like, please don't take my life. So at first I was like, girl, like, now's your time to shine in the book, but at the same time I'm like, this is very human of her. Because I probably would have done the same thing. I probably would have taken my knife or my sword to his neck, and if he says no, please don't, I'd be like, say you won't do it again or something. I don't know. There is a lot of dialogue here between Track and Nee that really highlights their differences. Nee is obviously very rash and reckless, and Track is more calculated. She's thinking about how killing a Han or just like injuring the Han or the circumstance that they're currently in could affect everybody around them. It could affect their whole family. And Nee wasn't really thinking about that, which is also very annoying. And I can relate because, like, I can be reckless sometimes too and not think about all of my consequences. Sometimes I just go for things and just do it without thinking. I'm also a younger sister. I'm also the youngest of 7. So that's why she pisses me off, because I'm looking right into a mirror. The sisters start fighting, like real fighting, not sisters, you know, just you this, you that. No, like they got their sparring, like, and Track eventually stops Nee. Ka negotiates with the Han officer, promising to handle Nee's punishment if the officer keeps quiet. Ka then returns to the palace to report the incident to Lord Trung. I did find this so interesting because this is the same Han officer who made Ka execute the beggar in front of everybody. But in this small, intimate moment, that Han officer is almost giving grace to the Trung sisters, Hale, and to Ka. So I thought that was interesting. I'm like, is this the Confucianism seeping in? I don't know. Lord Trung is furious, surprisingly directing his anger towards Ka. What Ka suggests that Nee be imprisoned in solitude at an abandoned temple with only the bare minimum necessities, advising Lord Trung and Lady Mintin that this punishment will prevent the Han from executing her. Lord Trung agrees, but tells Ka that he too must be punished since all this happened under his supervision. Ka's punishment is a diet of only vegetables and soup for 1 year. Honestly, like, that's fine with me. What the heck? Why is Ka being punished? Like, I get it was under his supervision, but still. I mean, it's almost like in the corporate dynamic. You have the boss, the manager, and the employee. And yeah, when the employee messes up, typically, like, the manager gets all the heat, you know? And so that's crazy. I don't know. It's the same idea, and I just don't get why do we have that system in place? I feel bad for Ka. I do. And what happened, like, in the book, Ka eats it. He's just like, yeah, it happened under my supervision. This is my punishment. Like, I'm a little taken aback because, like, that doesn't make sense, but, you know, whatever you say, Your Highness. Whatever you say, my lord. Chapter 10. Trung Nee is now banished to the old abandoned temple of Ah Ko. And you know, I gotta look it up. Temple of Ah Ko, is that a thing? Let's do my 2 seconds of research. Ooh, we got something. Okay. Ah Ko was, according to the creation myth of the Vietnamese people, an immortal mountain snow goddess, who married Lac Long Quan, Dragon Lord of Lac, and bore an egg sac that hatched 100 children, known collectively as Bac Viet, ancestors to the Vietnamese people. Ah Ko is often honored is often honored as the mother of the Vietnamese civilization. I read a little bit about that, and I think this is why the Vietnamese culture at that time had such a strong matriarchal influence. But hold on, because Dragon Lord of Luck. Okay, so the author did mention Dragon Lord of Luck. Pretty much Tai Sak said this is not. So, okay, Lord Trung is supposedly a descendant of Dragon Lord of Luck, supposedly. And Tai Sak was like, you are not Dragon Lord of Luck material. So, interesting. I love it when authors drop nuggets of history in their book and it all actually, like, comes together. So to reiterate, her sentence is to remain in solitude, not speak to anyone, and only receive breakfast and dinner for 1 year. If he hasn't caused enough trouble already, of course Fan means Shed is near the temple. They are both banished from the palace grounds in town. They are just two troublemaking lovebirds, those two. Fan Min heard the consequence of the vengeance from Ka, the guardsman, and decided to sneak over to Ni to pay a visit, given his shed is near the temple. He presented a bronze drum, and says he will bang the drum in the distance to remind her she is not alone. Honestly, just sneak me some apples or something. Like, I get the sentiment, and I think that is really sweet. But can I get a snack, perhaps? A bowl of rice? Going back to discussing Ni's punishment, Lord Trung decided to appoint Tai Sak, the educator, to deliver her food. After completing a lesson with only now one student, he has ample free time to take that trip. He was instructed to ignore Ni, just show up and drop off the food. So earlier on in the chapter, Ka was basically just like, can my punishment be that I have to deliver the food to Ni? That I have to take, that kind of a long trip out. And Lord Trung was like, no, like, I still need you here. I need you to be reporting to duty, sir. And so he just decided, like, all the people that work close to me are needed for the positions that they were hired for. So who has free time? Tai Sak, the educator, has free time. And let me just say, Track and Sak just belong together, and Ni better not. I'm just saying, she better not swoop in and take Track's love story away from her, because that's going to piss me off. I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll see. So that's it for now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening. I hope you enjoyed chapters 6 through 10. If you have any comments, commentary, concerns, complaints, kiss my ass, just kidding. No, seriously, if you have any comments or commentary, please let me know. Let me know what you think. I hope you enjoy this book so far, and if you have any ideas of what you might want to read for the next book, let me know. I have an idea. I have an idea. I have a couple ideas, but I actually want to hear from you, because what's a book club without you? That was cute. Okay. All right. Bye.